Hi everyone. First of all, congratulations on making it this far in this course. So for this test, you'll be asked to submit a really highly complex piece of code for a challenger level debugging problem. Now you have to submit the code, you have to submit the error that you're facing while you're trying to run the code. And the purpose of this task basically is to evaluate the depth and the complexity of real world code that you have worked with. So to ensure that you pass this test, you have to make sure that you submit like a really good production level code that you've previously worked on. The code should come from a real project or some repository that you've worked on, and it shouldn't be solely written for the purpose of this test, right? While submitting the code, you have to clearly mention any and all of the issues that you're facing while you're trying to run it. There would be probably some error messages that you see or error logs that you see. Just mention those logs while you're trying to write that prompt itself. Avoid writing any of the codes that were purely written for learning purposes. For example, some practice coding questions that you've learned while you were trying to learn a particular language, or competitive programming problems, or simple algorithm demonstrations like algorithm demonstrations or textbook examples, stuff like that. Submissions like these will not be considered valid as they do not reflect any real world engineering complexity. This question carries a significant weight in the evaluation and can really strongly influence whether you pass this course or not. So please make sure that you do not use any AIs to generate a code for this particular task. Usually what happens is that AI generated codes often construct an artificial fake scenario around one specific type of issue. So let's say if you ask an AI model to like write a really complex debugging code, it would have a particular type of issue in mind first, and then it just creates an entire piece of code around it. So what you should focus on is to genuinely find the most complex and sophisticated pieces of code that you have worked on previously. Try to find codes from some of your passion projects or some things that you've worked on in the past. Any repository that you have already. Try to find pieces of code that use like really complex libraries, some uncommon libraries that not a lot of people are aware of. And then the more complex the piece of code is, the better it is, because ultimately we're trying to improve all of these AI models which are already pretty good at like writing complex pieces of code. But if you want to improve them, you have to be smarter than the AI itself. So yeah, just focus on finding the most challenging and sophisticated pieces of code, and then you should be good to go with that. And beyond that, just three rules of thumb: you should have a complexity that is really high, it should reflect a real production system, and the code should have a practical purpose beyond just like demonstrating a single particular issue, right? So yeah, take your time, carefully select what code you want to provide, and that should be the most representative example of your experience in this industry and this field. And yeah, good luck. I hope you pass the exam.